Everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. I am here with Mayor Marchetti at Park Square in downtown Pittsfield. Mayor Marchetti, thank you for taking the time to do this.
You're welcome, thank you. I was waiting for you to say I'm going to jump right to it, and I was going to ask if you were going to jump in the fountain.
I would like to. It's about, 92, 93 right now?
So you picked the hottest day of the year to do this outside, but it's okay.
You know, last year I did the exact same thing with the DA, the chief, and the sheriff, and I felt so bad for the chief because his head got sunburned.
It's all good.
But I think we got a little bit of shade and a little bit of cloud coverage. So this interview, we're just going to talk about garbage because that's something that is, as you know, it's highly talked about. There's going to be some big changes coming, and a lot of people sent me a lot of different questions to ask, and I figured, well, we'll go ahead and go for it and see if we can make everyone happy there. So the last city council meeting, the council did vote to approve the new rollout, which would be a tote system, which I've been a big proponent of personally for a long time. And it looks like we're going to be going with the 48-gallon totes. And I guess the first question I'm going to ask is because many people don't understand why it has to be one size tote. So can you explain that?
So when we were out at the Mass Municipal Association annual meeting and trade show, that was one of the first questions I asked. Could it be different size totes? Because as we have tried to do this before, if you're a large family, you want as big a tote as you can get. If you're a single person, you want as small a tote as you can get. And so how do you find that? They had told me, yeah, we think we can do multiple size totes. The fact of the matter is, at least through Casella and who we're dealing with the automations, the arms need to be calibrated in order to pick up the size totes. And so Casella is making the case that no, they can't be different sizes. So we need to pick a size. And if I'll just gonna jump to the next one because I know it's why is it 48 gallon? I've heard from everyone that says, you know, why can't you compromise? Well, there's 32 up to 95. 95 is what many of us in Pittsfield use today when we don't recycle. 32 is the recommended DEP. So the compromise is either 48 or 64. 48 means the city saves $500,000 in disposal costs, providing that we educate and do it right. And the collection piece is $800,000. So you're looking at $600,000 worth of savings. And will we get there all in year number one? Probably not, being the case that we're going to do trash from July 1 to June 30th, and we're probably not going to be fully up and operated until sometime in November. So there will be some overlag in what we're doing, but I think 48 is the place to be where, for a majority of us, if we recycle properly, we'll be able to handle a 48-gallon tote.
Okay. Now, I know watching some of the public forums that you did with Commissioner Morales, one of the things that I heard quite a few times was the average household disposes of equivalent to the 96-gallon tote. With that data, how do you, because we do know if they want an additional tote, there is an additional fee for that.
So we don't follow that up with the average household has 0 recyclables with their 95 gallon trash that they put out. And so, in order for this to work, everybody's got to get on board. I've heard you a number of times say the city needs to be spot on with their education and the rollout. And I think that's why it's not happening July 1. It's going to take us a couple months of getting the totes into people's properties and doing a full-fledged campaign about the recycling piece. And so, again, 95-gallon tote, sure, but that means I'm not promoting recycling. That means I'm not looking for savings. That means I'm just looking to change something. And I think that that's the piece that we all fall short of. This change isn't being done just because toters is a better thing. There are two pieces. One is, within the next 5 years, I don't think there's going to be a hauler in the world that's still going to be doing manual labor with the automation. And two, there's a cost savings to be had with this. And we're talking just garbage, but when you're told, please don't raise my taxes anymore, I'm at enough is enough, you want me to continue letting you throw out 95 gallons worth of trash with no recycling so that we can watch that rise year after year after year. I can't make those two things balance.
Now, with the recycling, it's paper and plastic are separate?
Correct.
Okay, so that was another thing. Why is that? Why did we not do a single stream rather than...
So single stream actually costs more than dual stream in the end. And so one of the pieces I think that we need to focus on is the disposal contract has two different rates. The first rate is $122 a ton to dispose of trash. The second one is 75 gallons a ton to throw out recyclables or dispose of recyclables. But we make money when our recyclables make it to the Springfield MRF. We are close to an average of $70 a ton that we're making back. 75 minus 70 is $5 a ton for recyclables. Look at the difference between the $122 a ton and the $5 a ton end game, net cost for disposing of trash. And so it's still cheaper for us long term. There are some stuff that I think each of us as a household have to figure out. And I wasn't going to mandate it. I think it's going to be easier for me to request from the city a second recyclable toter. So I have my paper in one place and my cans and bottles in another. I have the room in my 2-car garage to put it there. But if I mandated that, people would be, where do you want me to put it? I don't have a garage, I don't have a backyard, I don't have a place. So I think it's up to folks to determine what they want to do. We put out 2 suggestions. 1, get a second recyclable tote that's free. We're not going to charge to pick it up. Or 2, keep your blue bins and we'll sell blue bins in stock. Separate paper and plastic into your blue bins and on trash day, dump them into the 48-gallon recyclable tote.
But it's, if they want that additional recycling tote, that's pretty easy and no charge, right?
Correct. So I think it's up to the person. To me, I'm going to think it's easier to get a second tote and not have to worry about it on trash day. And I have the space for it, but some may say no. And so here's one of those. If I tell you you have to, you're going to complain that you don't have enough room. If I don't tell you you have to, you're going to complain that it would be easier for me to do it this way. And that's one of the things that we kind of talked about during this process. There are 17,000 plus households. How do I find a solution that works for everyone?
Okay. And, and one of the questions I get a lot also is, if we already have totes, what do we do with those? And is there some kind of program where Casella will buy them off of us, or is there any way to get money out of that? Or
so I don't know about getting money out of it. I do know that we are working with Casella as part of the delivering of the totes. If people want to get rid of their old trash cans, whatever they may be, we're working on that. I don't think Casella will buy them back because I don't know that they have a use for them. But we can look into that and ask that question. I can follow up with you later about that.
Okay. And I guess one of the other big questions was, does it have to, where do I put it? And can I leave it out at the curb, or does it have to be put away somewhere, or how does that work?
Well, so putting it out, it needs to be put out somewhere near the curb, within 3 feet of the curb. We ask that you keep 3 feet between the recyclable and the trash toter, and that will be all part of Casella's educational campaign of how to do that. I think the issue of whether we leave them out all the time at your curb, we don't allow that today, even if you wanted to leave your trash can there, so I'm not sure that we would go that far. But I've been committed to, we'll try to help you find a solution. If that's a solution, then we'll may have to go back and look at our health department regulations and make some changes.
Okay. And as far as seniors, is there seniors or disabled, is there an assistance program that if they can't get it down to the curb?
So there's one today. If folks are disabled, if they complete a form, they need a doctor sign off. And Casella currently today picks up your trash in the backyard or wherever you leave it, brings it to the truck, dumps it, and takes it back. And so when we did our senior center toter concept, we had the forms with us so that we can try to help people. Just because you're 75 years old doesn't mean that you need help getting your toter to the curb. I mean, they are on wheels, and part of what I enjoyed when I was doing the sessions is here, try to wheel it up and down. It's not that difficult. It's
right.
It doesn't weigh a lot. It's plastic, and if you're a senior and you're saying you want the smallest tote possible because you don't throw out much trash, throwing the trash in there isn't adding that much poundage to the toter to get to the curb.
Now, knowing that the average household has been disposing of double of what they're going to have now, so a lot of people have concerns that you're going to see dumping in the parks, dumping in the woods. Do you have a concern about that?
Well, I have a concern about that right now because when we live in a community that allows unlimited curbside trash pickup, we're still seeing illegal dumping all over the community. And I think you've done a few shows talking about the dumping in a variety of parks. So is it going to get worse? I don't know. Because when you have the opportunity, minus like your mattress and your couch, but we find garbage in the parks. We find that today. So does it get worse? I don't know. So there's part of me that says we'll be on it and we'll be taking care of it on the city side. I think I'll be very clear that we're going to open the bag, and if we can determine who it is, we'll be visiting you with a fine for what you've done. And I think some of it is, and I hear it. And I'm going to address my Facebook warrior comment with you head on.
Good.
Okay? You don't have to ask the question. It's frustrating when you're trying to make a change and you're trying to do the right thing, right? I hear from everybody. You're every place. You're communicating 1,000 times better than ever before. I'm trying. I can't spend my day reading your It's Happening Tonight comments that then someone shares, and there's comments on that post, and there's comments on that post. I think we've been pretty open. We did 3 sessions. I'm willing to listen. And again, is this going to be an easy thing for folks? No, because the way that you've always done it will not be acceptable any longer. But just because you've always done it this way, does it really mean that you've been doing it the right way? So when we're a community that's only recycling at 9%, are we okay with that?
Do you believe it's realistic, though? Say a family of 4 or 5. Do you think it's realistic for them to be able to reduce that trash in half? Do you think it's all solely recycling, or is it, because that, a lot of people said, is there going to be an assistance program? What if I can't afford the extra $40 a quarter?
So, I think that that's something that we're going to have to look at as we go on, but it's really hard for me to say when someone doesn't recycle. I'm a household of 2. I get by with 1 or 2 13-gallon bags, but I think I recycle fairly decent, but I'm not 100%. So the toilet paper roll goes in the garbage in the bathroom and probably ends up in the trash. It doesn't end up in the recycle. So is it possible for folks to get there? I think the answer is yes. It's on us to educate and get folks to be able to do that. And, I know I'm going to hear, will my taxes go down?
I'm assuming no.
And the answer is no, but when I'm starting the fiscal year 26 budget and I know that we've been able to achieve $600,000 in reductions in trash, that's $600,000 that can go someplace else. Maybe I'm wrong.
Where was the 80,000 coming from? I heard 80,000 in savings quite a bit.
So, and here's where, if I play Monday morning quarterback on myself, if I want to say the one thing that I did wrong, it was piecemealing this process. So we got the collection contract out to the council early. That was an $80,000 worth of savings, and it was the differential in the old contract to the new with collection. We were still in negotiations with the disposal contract, and I decided that in order to be able to make a July 1st deadline to begin the educational piece, we had to piecemeal it. I should have waited, so I had both the disposal and the collection, so then we could be talking close to $600,000 worth of savings rather than 80, because I heard that a lot. Oh, there's an $80,000 savings, it's really not worth what we're going through. Well, between collection and disposal, we're looking at $580,000 worth of potential savings. There should have been the narrative from day one.
Yes, because I do know, over the years watching council meetings, when certain things were proposed taking money out of free cash, sometimes it was broken down to, well, that's only like a cup of coffee a day kind of thing, and I think that's how the 80,000 was perceived. Like, what's that on the big scale?
Well, and I would agree, but there was piece two, and I think the most important part was wanting to get out and do the town hall sessions. I say this all the time. The very first one was at the senior center. I showed up, it was standing room only, and I went, uh-oh. But I think if you watch that PCTV rebroadcast, it wasn't really an uh-oh. There was really concerned people asking legitimate questions, and at the end of the day, I think there was a room full of people that, we wish you weren't going to change it, but we like the fact that we can save some money and do things differently, and we'll give it a try. And I think that's all I'm asking for at this stage of the game.
So now we know that, like, if you do need the additional trash toter, that will go attached to your water and sewer bill. How does that, like, if somebody can't afford it, how is that going to end up affecting them as far as from a tax perspective?
Well, I haven't got there yet, and I guess we'll have to cross that bridge as it happens. I mean, I look at it in two ways, right? I look at a community that continues to say, we need all these services, but we don't really want to pay for them. Well, we don't control some of the costs, right? So for trash pickup, you have a contract. And, many people are going to say, you should have bid the contract. Maybe we should have. But when you're looking at Casella and Republic Services, we know both players. Really, was there going to be much in the way of savings if we went out and bid a contract? And so, if we legally had to bid a contract, sure. If I hadn't followed that process, there's no requirement to follow that process. We went in looking for the best deal that we could find, and that's where we're at.
What was the difference, if you do know, in savings or lack of, if you had chosen 64 gallon over 48?
It was almost 2/3 cut in half.
Okay.
And again, I think a majority of people are looking at this as, hey, the mayor is doing this in a punitive nature. The mayor is doing this in an effort to reduce costs, and we're all quick to say what we want, but when DEP says, hey, 32 gallon toters, and if we go back to the last time this was proposed, we could have got a grant for free toters if we opted for a 32 gallon.
I think that's small, but that,
I'm with you, and I get it. And it was questions that I asked. Can I get by? Absolutely. The week of Christmas or the weeks of Christmas? Maybe not. And so how did we build in so that you could get that extra can, for a week or two? We still haven't settled on how much it's going to be, but if you're doing $40 a quarter, it's not going to be that expensive.
So that will be an option.
That will be an option.
If you just want to get the extra tote around the holidays.
Yep. And we're, as part of the educational campaign, trying to nut everything down. So if you want a second toter for the week of Christmas, you need to tell them by December 1st. And I don't know what that date is yet, but you can't call up on December 23rd and say, hey, can I have an extra tote, right? It's not going to be that quick of a turnaround. But we will come up with, for any occasion, right? We just finished graduations. If somebody needed a second tote, we're going to build that in so folks can have that option.
Okay. And now we'll move on to the transfer station. Mm-hmm. So under the new proposal, or the way it's going to be, it is $120 a year for access, and then if you're a senior, $80 a year. Now, the part I did leave out that I'm going to throw in now is there is an option for, like, a punch card is what they were calling it, and that would be, I believe, specifically towards yard waste.
The punch card is specifically towards yard waste. I know that when we were talking about it, we were saying each punch card was good for 2 trips, 10 bags per trip. There was some conversation from the council that says who can fit 10 bags in their car. So we were still trying to put the final touches on, does that punch card mean 10 bags? Or does that punch card mean 1 trip? So that, folks can do that. I mean, I think the other piece of the transfer station, and today, and this is some of our dumping that we see, you have textiles, right? I just recently learned that you can't throw clothes away, or you shouldn't throw clothes away. All right, what do you do with them? Well, there's boxes around town that collects them. You could bring that to the transfer station. You have an old computer or old electronics sitting around your house. They sit around your house forever, because what do you do with them? Well, you can bring them to the transfer station. Sure.
Now, there will be an additional fee for those, right?
There will be. But, if you're going to really do a complete overhaul of your house, you'd be hiring somebody to come pick it up, right? And so, not everything is free, but I hope that the extra convenience helps folks.
I think, my point of view, not that it really is anything you can do on this, but we live in such a disposable world now. And there needs to be far more pressure on manufacturers. I mean, you look at some of these flat screen TVs, you can get like a 32 for $129, and it's $100 to throw it away when it breaks. What do you think the average person is, especially if they don't have money? So if they have to make that decision, do I get a new TV because mine broke, or do I save up to throw it away? And I think you see a lot. I know a lot of people that work for CSX. You see a lot on the side of the railroad tracks, and then of course in parks. Everything is plastic. Everything is disposable, and it does seem like there needs to be, from a national legislative point of view, far more pressure on the manufacturers.
Well, I think there needs to be far more pressure on everything, because as we know, our landfill capabilities are becoming fewer and fewer. The ability to burn is becoming fewer and fewer. And so as a society, where are we throwing all this trash, right? So how do we, as a community, but how do we on a larger scale really implement recycling that works? And I think that's where we're going to be at over the next couple months. And, I'm already up for it, right? I know the first bump in the road that we have, people are going to be like, oh my God, we told you so. Maybe, right? But this is the long-term vision. This isn't about what happens on day 3. This happens about a year from now. And, I think there are a lot of justifiable concerns, but we're not the first community in the nation to go to a toter-based system. And my research shows me that every other community has figured it out. We can too.
I do agree with that. I've lived in communities where they've had this going back quite a few years. It just, everything's cleaner, more organized. That part stood out to me right away. And one of the things I'm going to mention again, I've mentioned it before, do not, if you have one, smash everything down in there, because what happens is the arm comes out, it picks it up, it bangs it twice on the side of the truck, sets it down, and like I found out the first time I had a solution, which was squish it all down in there, it was half still there, and that becomes a problem. So some people messaged me, we'll figure out how to get 64 into a 48, and that's not a good idea.
Well, and again, of the 64 that you're trying to smash into the 48, is it all trash, right? If you're recycling properly and it's not there, maybe you're going to be able to get, I think that's the piece for me. If we were having the argument of 95 to 48, there's no comparison, right? But 64 to 48, 16-gallon difference. Basically one hefty kitchen bag, right? That's what we're talking about. We're not talking the big pieces. And I really think if folks take the time to engage in recycle, I don't think the 64 to 48 is going to be that much of a difficulty. The ones who are still at 95 and aren't recycling, that's going to be the hardest to do.
Because it's a lifestyle change.
Exactly.
And this is something that is going to affect everyone. It's how you shop and how you dispose of it.
And I think there's a few things that I want to be crystal clear about. 1 48-gallon trash, 1 48-gallon recyclable. There is no additional cost to any homeowner for that. 48-gallon extra recyclable, no charge for that, either for the toter or for collection. If folks want an extra trash toter, it's $160 per year. which we're going to break it down to $40 per quarter attached to your water bill. There is no tipping fee. There are no other additional fees. It's $160 a year. Every other fee that you heard about is included in that $160. And that was one of the conversations that I kept seeing and hearing. There's this charge plus this charge plus this charge. No. There's one charge. It's the $160. That takes care of you for the year.
If someone was to fall behind on that, are they risking having their water shut off?
Off the top of my head, I don't know that answer. I know one of the things that happen if people are falling behind on their water and sewer, it gets added to the real estate taxes. So I think there's the issue. And again, it's brand new. We have some details to work out. And again, I think I've pledged communication. I think I've pledged to be accessible. I'm the one that said to you, I know you don't want to do any political shows, but I'm coming when you're ready, because I think it's important. You don't have to believe everything I believe in, but I want my words to be my words. I want my proposal to be my proposal, and I don't want what unfortunately happens, the game of telephone, to happen. And here's what's really happening, but here's what the community thinks is happening. And that's important to me, that we're on that same page.
I would say you're incredibly accessible and very visible. I've bumped into you at everything. So that is nice to see that. It honestly is. And I hope you go to the Strikeout Cancer, even the baseball game, the 29th at Clap Park, if you can, even for a few minutes. So I just had to poke you on that one.
That's fine. I think it's on my calendar to make an appearance.
So, good. So as far as the transfer station, then with the punch card, you haven't totally honed that?
We haven't completely finalized that down, because it did make sense that, hey, what if I can't fit my 10 bags? So I have to buy a second punch card because it's my third trip. And so we're working on that. And
because I know Commissioner Morales said $1 a bag, basically.
Yeah. And so that's kind of our thought process. So the 2-trip piece meant 10 bags. How do we incorporate the 10 bags?
Because I do know that people have been, in the fall, they sneak a bag or two in with yard waste, and that's how they get rid of it.
Well, throughout all of this, I've listened to people who say to me, I think the 48's great, and then all of a sudden they're like, wait, maybe 64. And I'm honest with them. Look, you live all by yourself. There's no way if you recycle properly that you need a 64-gallon tote for one person in a household. And then it comes out, well, in the fall, you kind of put my leaves. Well, your leaves shouldn't have been picked up, right? So good for you. You got around the system, but it's not legal, right? I talked with one of my family members who brings their little bag that they have from their house, from another community, to their daughter's house. And I'm like, you're part of my problem. Because everybody does it, right? The amount of money that it costs to dispose of trash in Dalton or Hinsdale, you have to buy your transfer ticket, you have to buy your bags, you have to do this, or you have to have a private hauler. So you find another stuff. I know there are a number of bags that come from neighboring communities. And later my relative said, oh my God, you're right, I never realized that if 17,000 people like me were doing what I was doing, it adds up.
I know the yard waste thing is very common.
Yep.
And I mentioned that, and I don't think I mentioned it the right way in a previous video, but that's what I meant by that. I wasn't implying to some people who thought I was that it is a service that we offer.
Well, and I think as we explore this and we continue to go, if we're really reaching $600,000 worth of savings, do we have more hazardous waste days? Do we have more bulky waste pickup days? Do we have yard waste cleanup, either in the fall or in the spring or both? Those are conversations that we can have, but we can't have them right now if we're paying $5.1 million worth of trash, and now we want to add more, because we can't afford it. That's loud and clear. We can't afford what the city is doing to us. I don't know what that answer is, because when you take a look at it and you take a look at the city's budget, a very, very large percentage is people and benefits. And if you want the service, you need the people. So, I think that this was step one at trying to save some money, and we'll look at other avenues.
Okay. Now, I get a lot of other questions about other stuff, so I would love to be able to sit down with you in the future on some other topics. I have a lot of business owners that reach out to me and say, you don't hear much about businesses if they're not downtown. And we would love to be able to sit down with the mayor, like a small group, and ask some questions. Is that something you'd be up for?
So we talked about it during the campaign. We talked about having meetings with downtown merchants, and that was to address their concerns, because I think the concerns of our downtown are different than concerns of other areas in the city. 6 months has flown by fast, but we've been able to meet with our downtown merchants. I did have, one small teachers meeting. I have got the task force up and running. It's time to put through a small business group. We are currently working on a developer contractor meeting, because I hear continuously that our building inspector is not open and friendly and warm and easy to do business with. So we're doing an event July 10th, I believe. I'll correct it if I'm wrong, so you can correct it, at 7 p.m. at the Berkshire Innovation Center, to be able to air out and let the contractors come forward and say, here's our complaints, here's what we want to see done differently. We'll, over the summer, get a small business group. Again, it's not about coming to yell at me about what you do or don't like. It's about talking about how we can make change. And that will be the purpose of those meetings.
Okay, but would you be interested in sitting down with me again with a small group?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And
not 92 degrees in Park Square, though.
No, I've got a bad habit of doing this. But in closing then, when do you guess that this will all start to be implemented?
So I'm hoping to sign the contract within the next week, because I'm not signing until I've made sure that everything that we talked about at City Council meeting is included in there. And then we're going to start the education campaign right away. It's my hope that by September we're starting to see cart rollout and collection and be done before the first snowflake.
And you are looking at possible options for people with assistance that would need it?
Yep. We're looking. This isn't an opportunity to penalize people, but I think end game, it's pay that extra piece, or if it wasn't that and it was all still part of your tax bill, you're going to pay it in your tax bill. So, you're shuffling who you're paying to, but I don't think it's going to get cheaper to live in the city anytime soon, even though I'd love that to be a campaign promise that, hey, I could lower taxes. I don't see that in the future.
Okay. All right, well, thank you again for doing this, especially in 93-degree heat, or whatever it is. It's really hot.
The door's open. I've told you that before. We can agree to disagree, and I'm okay, right? I want to be clear to folks. You called me out.
Oh, yeah, let's touch on the Facebook Warrior. So why the Facebook Warrior comment? I just felt like when you did that, everything was cool, and I don't know if you realized how many people were watching it being streamed live on Facebook.
Well, and so the comedy there is my personal Facebook page gets very little stuff.
Yeah, but you're not.
I hate Facebook, right? My mayor's page gets stuff because it's one other avenue of telling people. But like I said, if you're gonna manage a city based on people's Facebook comments, I wouldn't do anything else but read Facebook comments, because there is one person's post, there's 300 comments. Two people share that post, there's 200 comments on each one of those. And a lot of them are the same comments once they start going around. And so, it was my bad to be like, okay, here we go. We're gonna start double guessing and changing where we are, when we can agree to disagree. But I think we've done our research. I think I've explained why 48 over 64 and its cost savings. I think that we need to do a better job recycling. Look, we don't have to agree. It doesn't make me the bad guy. And so, out of frustration, I was like, we've heard it all. I'm doing this all wrong. They were all coming to a meeting And then I just zipped it because the following meeting, when everyone was going to show up wearing Facebook Warrior t-shirts and I enraged them all, I probably would have stood up and went, if people actually showed up.
Now that was my comment being taken out of context.
But what I'm saying, right? Again, the mayor said something wrong. Let's go prove him wrong. And nothing. And like, why do we have to be like that? We've sat down a number of times and had conversations, both with the microphone in front of us and without.
And they're very similar.
And you haven't always liked what I had to say.
I think with Facebook or social media, it's just the future. It's another tool. It's no different than back in the day, AOL, Instant Messenger, or any of that.
No, and I understand that, but I think that
even your videos, their biggest audience is on Facebook.
Right.
More people stream now than cable, and so that has changed.
And again, there's one more opportunity to communicate and touch base. I just don't think that Facebook is the medium for making your decisions about what you want. And
absolutely.
Especially when it's about the size of toters and the demographic that's on social media far more than anything else. So that demographic has a point. And they may be right, but where are the other demographics that aren't necessarily as visible on Facebook? And so there's more than just one way of getting information.
Because I get beat down on Facebook quite a bit myself, and then when I saw the meme with you in it the other day, I laughed because I said, well, all right, I guess I'm in decent company now because I saw the meme with me, fact check failed or something like that.
And you know what, like, again, not everyone agrees. I've watched some of the comments for Juneteenth, and I just can't comment because if you don't believe in the cause or support the cause, stay home. I don't know why stuff has to be the way that it is.
But the more it's addressed, and that's what I tell people, the more I hear stuff negative towards me, I come right back, as you know, because you have to. It's how you stop that from happening.
Well, and there are people who I know listen to you faithfully that I reached out to them, who have posted something on Facebook. I have reached out to them with a private message to say, blah, 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 whatever it may be. I'm not going to get into a Facebook war. I have very, very deep concerns about Facebook from a legal standpoint, and one is I don't want to talk business on my personal Facebook page because it's personal. And if something goes down and you say, oh, there's this big thing and I want to do a freedom of information request, I don't want to give up all the material on my personal Facebook page.
I agree.
Because it's mine.
I think it should be a public utility. The fake accounts and, all that's the problem.
My mayor page, if we're messaging there, it's all game, right? And so there's that. And then there's also, everyone feels the need to comment.
There's another bicycle on the sidewalk.
I see that. If we're debating something on Facebook and 6 members of the city council jump onto a thread and are debating an issue that is before the city council.
I've seen that. I'm sure you have
It's an open meeting violation.
And you have seen that, haven't you?
I don't know that I've counted to 6, but I know they all jump on. And, excuse me, what's that mean? If we do that.
That's
then
what I'm
someone's
saying.
going to be like, whoa, look what these guys did. Yeah, they were communicating, so how bad
it's still the Wild West, and it needs to be regulated. It needs to be. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation.
But, again, I'm not a bad guy. I'm willing to engage in conversations, and I can only engage if it's a two-way street.
Okay, well, I more than appreciate your time again, and I'm going to hit you up on inviting you to sit down with a couple business owners, and we'll do another conversation, and we'll wait till a scorching 94-degree day.
All good.
All right, well, thank you again, Mayor Marchetti, and hopefully that answers, I'd like to hope it answers everyone's questions, but at least a few of them. So that's it for now, and I'll catch you all in the next day or two.